right, welcome back to Definitely Not a Podcast where we listen to people's stories and aim to connect, learn, and inspire. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Leah.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Would you like to elaborate more on how we know each other and what you do?
I'm your mother-in-law,
Yeah.
right? Almost. Not official, but
Pending.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, we've been together for so long. I consider you to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I consider you to be my daughter. That's it.
Okay. I think we'll start off just hearing about your life, from your childhood to your teenage
Oh,
years, to where you are now.
that's deep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, my I grew up kind of poor. Really poor actually. And yeah, it was kind of a rough childhood. Especially like on my mom's side. My dad was like the greatest. But growing up with my mom was really rough. There was a lot of like trauma there. Um, and then of course having my kids like really young, I had um, Darren obviously at 18 and then Isaac at 20. So I basically grew up with them. And then I had Jace when I was 30. So he's 8 now. And it's crazy, like just the difference in age. I literally apologized to Darren and Isaac this morning. I sent him a group text and I was like, hey, I just realized that I wake Jace up like really nice, right? When it's time to wake Jace up, I'm like, Jace, it's time to wake up. Get up for school, baby. And the boys used to tell me that they never liked how I woke them up. They were like, why are you always yelling at us? Get us out of bed. And so it like hit me this morning that I was like, dang, like I really didn't wake them up very nice. And I never listened to them when they told me. So I sent him a text message and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't wake you up nicely. And like, please forgive me. Mom tried.
Aw, that's
So
sweet.
yeah, just like trying to heal some generational
Trauma.
trauma at like 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. So
Uh,
anyway, yeah, I had my kids really young and I got into real estate over the last 4 years. That was a game changer. That was a life changer. So yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at now. And yeah, just keep pushing along.
yeah. I actually learned a couple things about you that I didn't realize, like, at least in talking about the podcast, because, like, Darren and I were talking, and I'm like, I don't know who else I should have on the podcast. And he's like, you should have my mom. Because, yeah,
Really? Oh, he
he's like,
recommended me?
yeah, he's like, she's lived a very interesting life, had you
Yeah.
young, had him young,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, just did a lot of jobs. And I think they all understand that you did your best, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's important, right? Because, like I said, like growing up with my mom, who like doesn't give a shit about anything, still that way. Um, I think that like we all try to like um, heal a lot of that, right? So like I try to be like what my mom wasn't to me. So, and I you don't realize that your error a lot of times as a parent until like way later in life. So, um, just like recognizing that and calling it out, even as simple as like, hey, sorry guys, I woke you up like a piece of shit this morning. Or when you were younger, and I realized I was wrong for that, and I'm sorry. And I think that just does like, it just helps everybody move past a little bit more. I just like, I wish my mom would do that even today and be like, hey, sorry that this happened. Like, I just realized that this was really shitty of me and I apologize. I think that would go a long way. So I just try to apply that to my kids and how it helps us move along,
Hmm.
and heal some of that crap that's just been like passed down from generation to generation to generation, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I will say though, we actually had dinner probably like a month ago, and we were talking about that. They were talking about like how shitty their high school experience was and how hard they made it on you, like to get up in the morning because they just chose to stay in bed. And that's what they were saying. They're
That's
like,
what, yeah, that's what Isaac said. So he texted me back and he was like, I love you too, mom. Actually, it was really hard, or you had every right to do that because I refused to get my ass out of bed. So I totally understand. So that was the trade off, was like me being a maniac and them just not listening, you know? But even still, you're like, as you know, hindsight is 2020.
yeah,
So looking back, and especially being older now and having such a young child, Jace is 8, and being older and more mature and more experienced, looking back at like literally growing up with my kids, just where I could have been better, you know.
mm,
And they, man, they asked me one time. I remember they were like, "Mom, do you even know what Hot Topic is?" And I was like, what? Shut up. Like they thought that I was like the oldest person like in the world as they were growing up, and I'm like, you guys don't even really, like, we're really not that far apart in age, you know?
that's really funny.
Yeah. So there was good stuff about like having them so young because I was able to relate to them. Even yesterday, I was cleaning the house and this Suicide Boys song came on and I was like rocking it. I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And so I looked at the name and I saw that it was Suicide Boys. So I texted Darren and I was like, yo, I just listened to, like, this just came on and it was like the shit. And he's like, yeah, mom, it is like, and that's one of his favorite
Mm,
bands, right? So even just being able to relate to my kids like in those little areas, that's, you know, that makes all the difference in the world too.
yeah, it is huge. And I think part of that too, though, is like it is a blessing in some ways to have kids that young
Mm-hmm.
to relate to them like that.
Right.
But it's also a blessing to have kids older, like with
Yes.
Jace, because I remember in that same conversation, we were talking about how, like, again, you know, that like shitty childhood, like a lot of shit was going on because you and their dad were so young. But where I'm going with this in my head is that, like, things are better off for Jace than it was for my boyfriend and his brother. And that's not a bad thing
Oh, for
because, you
sure.
know, like you're just financially well off now. Like a lot of things are
Yes.
better now.
Yeah.
And like they were acknowledging like that sucked for us at
Mm-hmm.
that age, but we're glad things are better for our brother, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And like,
No,
yeah,
for sure. Like they, oh man, they struggled with me hardcore. Like, um, there was a story that I told not long ago, actually, when I was giving a presentation at work, and I was telling them like how real estate like changed my life. Literally, it changed my life, right? That like when the boys were a little bit younger and I was just a single mom, like I remembered that it was always like robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Like you juggled your bills, you paid like the most important bills that needed to be paid, and then, or you would alternate bills, right? Like this time I'm paying my power, and then next month I'm paying my car, right? And like there were a couple times where I couldn't pay the power, so we got our lights turned off. I had to put all the food into a cooler to keep it cold, just the little bit of food that we had. And thank God that that you know they had the good support system of their dad and of their grandparents. But it was a struggle for a long time, and especially struggling like with my own mental health too as a young single mom, and having gone through like the troublesome relationships that I had gone through and the trauma that I've gone through, just healing myself and still being there as a support system for them and still being a good mom. Like it was a clusterfuck. So sorry, can we?
yeah, you can go.
Okay. Um so yeah, like they had it rough, right? And so now that I have an 8-year-old that Jace is younger, I have more of my shit sorted out, right? Like you said, I have better income, I'm better mentally, I'm more confident as a mom. Um, for the most part, like don't get me wrong, most normal moms carry like a crippling amount of guilt. So just know that um, of like, could we have done better? Could I be doing this? Could I be doing that? But my philosophy, as long as I question myself if I'm doing the right thing or if I could be doing better, then I'm doing okay because crazy people don't normally question themselves.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. I mean,
they just think they're
you,
right. You
yeah,
know.
you hit the nail on the head. Like, if you're a bad person and that way you're like, you're not reflecting
Yeah,
on your own
exactly.
actions
Yeah.
or
So I figure as
whatever.
long as I'm questioning myself, then I'm in good shape. Because once I stop, then we're in
Yeah,
trouble. And once I think I'm always right, then we're in trouble.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but I really like. I'm really proud of the way that my boys came out and the things that they're doing and having seen my son being in such a long relationship with you, like that is something that I wasn't able to show him. So just the fact that he is like already stepping away from the things that he was shown gives me hope, like for the next generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually funny you say that because when I had Ben on the podcast, he was also talking about that, like, specifically leaving a legacy for like younger people and
Hmm.
being a role model towards them.
Right.
So I think, yeah, doing that's the right mindset to have.
Yeah, of course. And, like I said, as long as we continue to question ourselves and what can be better, giving our kids something better isn't always like more money or, hey, I'm leaving you a giant ass house or all of this, you know, um, like a huge inheritance or anything. Like sometimes, doing better for your kids or giving them more than what you had means exactly that. Your legacy of like, you you broke those repetitive trauma patterns and you broke those generational curses, if you will, and now you have a better life for it, right? So it's not always something like tangible. Leaving a legacy could mean that you're just better off as a person,
Hmm.
because you took or because somebody before you took the time to stop what had been continuing through generations and generations and generations, right? So I do feel like that has been a main purpose as my parent as or for being a parent, um, is to like look back, reflect, and say, okay, this is where this ends, right? Like all this shit was handed down, but it's not going to continue. And then like some things trickle through, of course, like you can't be perfect, but some things trickle through. And then it's Darren's job or Isaac's job or your generation's job to say, okay, we're going to stop that. And then even less is going to trickle through or new things might come up, right?
Yeah.
So it's just our duty as people, I think, to help form the future generations the
Yeah,
best we can.
I agree 100%. I think along that too, um, I don't know if this is generational to your family, but I know you had a really rough relationship with your sisters for pretty much like ever that I've known until recently when, you guys came together after your dad passed away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my sisters and I have been like, we've always had like ups and downs, right? Um, there have been, it hasn't been always been that we're rocky. Like, there's nobody in this world that I'm actually closer to than my sisters, and there's nobody who rides as harder than my sisters, right? Um, so it's been like a little bit of, oh, well, we're beefing with Manda right now, so we're just not talking to her. And then a
Mhm.
year goes by and we haven't talked. Or Manda and Jay, are the oldest, they're beefing, so they haven't talked for this long, right? So I'm the middle. which is hard. Like being a middle child is pretty tough because you're literally in the middle of everything, right? You have one person telling you this and the other person telling you that. And especially between sisters, like you can get like they can get kind of catty sometimes. So they're like, well, this goes without saying, like, whose side are you on? Like, what side are you gonna
Yeah.
pick? You know? But no, my sisters are my best friends, and they have been. Um, Always been supportive, always been like, of course we've had arguments and stuff where we go without talking for a little while, but we always come back, and especially as we've all gotten older and we all have come to the same realization that we all had a shitty childhood growing up in one way or another. Um, we just kind of let it go. Like, you know, none of that matters. We're trying to like build a better future for ourselves and for our kids and for, just in general, and just leave all of the past trauma behind. So recently, like, we had to cut my mom off. Um, yeah, so that's been kind of rough, but we all support each other. My Amanda, my little sister, she's kind of taking the reins on our mom right now, and helping her navigate through some of the, like, getting her social security set up and all that stuff. Um, when prior it was myself and my older sister. So yeah, it's just kind of been. Um, I think we came to a point kind of where we were like, okay, that's enough. Like, we're past all this. We can't. We don't have to um, expose ourselves to this type of abuse anymore. So we're just not gonna do that. And yeah, kind of cut it off.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, my mom passed away.
Yeah.
It's been like 2, 3 years now.
Right. Right.
And I think it was kind of the same way, but she was an alcoholic. So, her mind was, struggling with that kind of illness. So,
That has to be tough.
yeah.
That has to be tough. Like, how old was she?
Oh. I think she was barely in her 50s, like early 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen a lot of people pass away from alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. How did you, like, cope with that? Were you really close with her?
Not really. I I don't even know how I coped with it because I think honestly she was in Colorado and I was living in Florida at the time, so it was easy to just already be away from that. But I didn't really end on good terms with my mom,
Oh.
like in general. We were not talking for years prior, and I know that my brother, like, he was there with her till the end. I saw her one time before she passed away, but she was in the hospital and she, you know, pretty much drank herself to death.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw her, she was on, like, what is it? Ventilation, I think.
Yeah, ventilator.
Yeah, she was on a ventilator. And, like, it was just really, like, I think disheartening seeing her like that because she looked like a ghoul. Like, she looked so, like,
Yeah, like, not
scary. Yeah, like, not herself at
herself.
all. Yeah. So I think, honestly, I don't really know if coping is the right word just because of our relationship,
Yeah.
especially at that time. But it'll be grief. Like when I talk to her, like I'll get teary eyed and I don't really realize it until I talk about it. So maybe that's just more for me to just unpack in therapy and kind
Yeah.
of explore that. But as of right now, like I don't really think about her that much because she wasn't in my life earlier either.
Right.
And she wasn't even supportive of mine and Darren's relationship, funny enough.
Oh, wow.
Literally the first time when we met, like, Darren and I hugged, and then she called me off to the side. She's like, "You cannot hug him."
Oh, I think I remember. I think I remember that. Like,
Yeah,
maybe not the hugging thing, but I think I
yeah,
remember that you guys could not be, like, close
yeah,
to each other. I think I remember, like, when we would pick you up or I would drop Darren off.
yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
How
it's a
long
long
has
time
it
ago.
been?
Since Like I last saw my mom.
No, since you and Darren have been together.
It's probably been about 6 years.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a long time,
yeah.
especially for as young as you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um no, I'm sorry about your mom. Like it's hard, you know? It's hard to um really, like you said, kind of unpack, especially when they're not like especially when they're not here to tell them like you bitch, like why did you do
Yeah,
this, or I love you, or can we just move on and can we just say we're sorry, and can we, you're kind of left like by yourself to deal with it. There was like when my dad passed, um there was some things that in a weird way almost made it easier because I didn't have to tell him face to face, like things I couldn't tell him face to face, right? And you just kind of process um, internally. But there were also things that I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird losing a parent, but I think you just, like you said, just kind of unpack slowly and do the best you can, you know?
I think another hard thing for me is that I didn't have a close relationship with like any of my siblings,
Mm-hmm.
and I have four older brothers. But so I don't really know what that aspect of like is like, coming together in times of hardship like that
Mm-hmm.
because I actually do want to have one of my brothers on the podcast and just talk about that.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were never close. Most of them are like years older than
Yeah,
me.
I was gonna say, aren't they
Yeah.
all older than you?
Yeah. But I mean even then, I feel like in times like that they it still felt like they didn't even take the time to, see if I was okay
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, like come together as a family.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I think they did because they were all in Colorado at the time.
right. You think they
But
did like more with each other
yeah,
than okay. And you're
but
the only girl,
yeah,
right?
I always felt like the black sheep of my family though, because
Right.
I mean being adopted
Yeah,
and
I was
then
gonna say, are they
yeah,
biological?
yeah,
Okay. And so you're the only one
that's
adopted.
adopted. Yeah,
Okay. So do you think that has something to do with it?
I feel like whether consciously or not,
Uh-huh.
there's definitely something to it. But there was it was always still is something hard for me to navigate because my brothers actually hang out like all the time. They all do like
Mm.
softball or they do
Yeah.
whatever family function it is, and it's hard for me to grapple with that a lot of
Yeah.
the time.
That would be like they have like you're just not included, you
Yeah.
know. I think that's why a lot of times I tell Darren and Isaac, like, take Jace. Like, take Jace with you. Or take him for the weekend, or he misses you, or you spend some time with him, right? Because there is such a big age gap there that I don't want it to be like that. I don't want it to be like, because Jace is raised more like a single child or
Yeah.
like an only child, you know? Whereas Darren and Isaac, they were like, they're inseparable. I mean, look, they live together. They're still inseparable.
No, yeah, very much still are
Yeah.
because they play video games every single day for
Yeah.
like 5 hours. Isaac's upstairs in his bedroom, Darren's downstairs in his bedroom,
Mhm.
and they're in the same call
Yeah.
playing video games together.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Like
like
they're
really
literally,
funny.
and they've been like that since they were little.
Yeah.
They've done everything together since they were little.
Yeah.
Because they were a package, right? They were so close in age. They're like less than 2 years apart. So they're so close in age. They wore the same clothes. They shared the same socks. They shared the same underwear. Sorry, boys. But like, so now, like I said, was such a big age gap with Jace, you know, I don't, that's a fear of mine where I'm like, if something ever happened, would my boys like kind of break off
Mhm.
into kind of like what you just explained, where they are together and then Jace is like floating around out here alone
Mhm.
without his siblings, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it goes to say, like, I'm not just trying to pawn Jace off. I literally have a bigger agenda here, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, do you think that that would have helped your like situation
Mhm.
if you were kind of more pushed into the group of brothers more? Like, do you think that
Uh,
would have made a difference in creating a relationship with them?
I don't even know about pushed because I think that both my parents have very strained relationships with their siblings.
Mm,
So it's kind of hard to like model, a healthy family dynamic when you don't even have a healthy dynamic with your own
right,
siblings, you
right.
know?
Yeah.
So I think there was just a lot of stuff to unpack for my family. Like at least most of my siblings are in therapy, so at least they're,
Yeah. That's good.
working on
Therapy
themselves.
is it's
Yeah.
not as taboo as it used to be, you know?
No.
Like I think everybody needs therapy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree
So that's
100%.
good that they're like taking the initiative, especially for guys. Like
Oh, yeah.
I still think there's more you know, taboo for guys to be in therapy still than for women, but it's good to hear that they're working past that, you know,
Yeah.
getting past their
Yeah.
macho.
We'll see. Honestly, even though they're in therapy, the family dynamic's still weird because we're like, okay, what are we gonna do for Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is off doing their own thing this year. So we'll
Okay,
see,
good.
like,
So
yeah.
you'll be at home with me.
Yeah.
See,
I know
it
it'll be
works
our
out.
first Thanksgiving together.
It works out. Like,
Yeah.
how do you? Can I ask you, like, okay, coming from the dynamic that you came from, like, do you see a difference in our family dynamic
Oh yeah.
and with with the boys and I, or with the way that the boys, or more Darren, I guess, approach things?
Yeah, I do think it's very different, and I think it's a lot better. Like we talked about, Isaac and Darren are inseparable.
Mm-hmm.
They are always together, always talking,
Yeah.
and working through whatever family issues they have together,
Mm-hmm.
whether like with their dad. And I'm not at liberty to talk about it on the
Right. Right.
podcast,
No, that's good.
but it's also, it's not my place. They'll probably tell you on their own time.
Yeah.
And I think that even just goes to show that, you know, they're in it together. And I
Yeah.
think that you did right by that. And I think you're also right for questioning, like, not only am I doing well for the kids, are they doing well for each other?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that was always a big thing because my sisters and I, we are very, very close. My older sister is like the leader, right? She's the one who basically took all of our like shitty history and flipped it on its head. So, as opposed to looking up to my mom when I was growing up, I looked up to my stepmom. Don't get me wrong, but I more so looked up to my oldest sister, right? Like her opinion mattered the most, and I still feel like that little girl where I'm like, am I doing okay, sis? Like, am I doing this right? When I need just a wiser person's advice, or when I need to vent, or when I need just any kind of support, she's the one that I go to, because she broke through incredibly and so beautifully. She basically took a life that was meant for her, that was waiting for her, a horrible life, right? She had a horrible life waiting for her. She had like generations of trauma waiting for her, and she beat the odds in living what was meant for her, right? And when I say what was meant for her, is really like what was waiting for her, and what probably should have been her life. She beat it. She overcame it. She said, nope, I'm not taking this. I'm not taking this for, I'm not taking all of this like whole platter of shit and living this life, because this is what was handed to me. So she like flipped the script. And that is so just encouraging and so inspiring that there's really nobody else that I look up to the way that I look up to her, and how that has encouraged me to do the same, right, with my life, and say, you know what, I don't have to I don't have to live with what was handed to me. I can throw this out the window and start completely new, and start fresh and make it what I want and make it better and make it healthier. And I can apologize to my kids for waking them up shitty when they were young, right? And it's no big deal. Or my daughter-in-law can call me, at 8:30 and ask me if I could be on her podcast at 9:30, right? Like, and it's cool. Like, it's all good. It's all good, right? When in, like, that would have never been possible for me, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm proud. I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of Isaac. I'm proud of, you know, I love my family. I love everybody. Like, I can't wait to have everybody at Thanksgiving. And, you know, again, like my mom never made Thanksgiving dinner. Like, not one time. Actually, there's one time that I can remember my mom cooking,
Yeah.
and she was making enchiladas, and they were for somebody else. Like, I never had that connection with my mom, And so now I do feel like I'm making up for a lot of that, but I'll just be honest, like, I'm making up for it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to make the next generations, just give them something to remember, And so like, it's not even a question. We're going to, Leah's house for dinner. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, you should be proud. I think you built a beautiful family and continuing to, work hard to keep that together. I know you've even worked hard with your step kids, and
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
that
know
was
what
tough.
kind of stuff you want to talk
Blended
about,
families. Oh
but
man, blended families.
yeah,
It's hard.
yeah.
It's hard. You think, oh yeah, you can just hop in and, excuse me.
Yeah, we'll just mesh together without working. It'll
Yeah,
be
no,
all hunky
no, no,
dory.
no. There's power dynamics there between parents of, like, you know, even in the early days, like, if Brad would, you're automatically protective of your kids, right? And so you can tell them, or you can tell them stuff, or you could discipline them. But if anybody tries to come in and discipline them or tell them something or whatever, you're automatically like, bitch, no, like,
Yeah,
back off, It's my kid. Um, so even Brad coming in and, like, disciplining Jace in a way, like, that maybe I wouldn't have, that was hard, And I'm not saying, like, spanking him or yelling at him or anything, but um or the same goes, like, me with Hunter and Jax, with Brad's kids, that I would discipline them, or I would see something. One thing that bothers me, it still freaking bothers me to this day. I don't know why. But Brad is the kind of parent that if you don't want what was made for dinner, he'll get you something else to eat, right? And this just goes to show, like, how different of backgrounds Brad and I grew up in, because I grew up in, you eat what's given to you, and if you don't, then you go hungry, right? Brad was more uh, spoiled, I guess. He came, like, he was brought up in, like, a better,
yeah,
more functional
a better
household.
upbringing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he had a better upbringing. Um, and so he doesn't think that way. He's more like, well, if you don't want it, Like, you're not gonna be forced to eat it, right?
Must be nice
And
growing up though.
yeah, but I don't know why. Like, I don't know why, but this, like, just irks me to my core. And I've tried. I've even thought to myself, like, Leah, this is so stupid. Why does this bother you? And I don't know. It just, I have no idea. So a lot of times, like, his kids, you know, Jackson and Hunter, they're really picky eaters, right? Um, and so a lot of times, like, they didn't want to eat what was given to them, and Brad would just go get him a pizza or make him something else. And it took a long time for me to be like, why are you doing that? Or to stop asking him, like, why are you doing that? No, they need to eat, like, what is given to them. And Brad is like, no, they don't. They can actually eat whatever they want, you know? So that was a big struggle. And that is just one tiny little thing of, like, things that you don't think about when you're blending your families. All of these little nuances about, you know, how kids and parenting, and this is what they do, and their patterns, and their just what they're used to, and how that, like, butts heads with all of these little things that you're used to. So it was interesting. It was tough, but I mean, we got through it. We all love each other. We're a big family, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
You know, I love all my kids. I love all of them, and I would do anything for all of them. So that's that's the ultimate goal. It's to, I always, so Darren and Isaac's grandpa Rod, when we were young, or when I was younger with them, and their dad and I were going through a divorce. Uh, Rod, their grandpa, had told me something that has just stuck with me. And he said, kids can never have enough people to love them, or too many people to love them. Kids can never have too many people to love them. And going off of those words that Rod said when I was so young, when I'm talking, we got divorced when I was 21 or 22. Going off of those words that he said allowed my ex-husband and I to have a really, really good co-parenting relationship with the boys. Where I mean, of course, it wasn't always it didn't always, there were mishaps here and there, but for the most part, I was still very close with all of their family, and we were already, like, changing history, right? The way that it had been presented to me with divorce, in having a good co-parenting relationship. And that was applying that bit of knowledge that kids can never have too many people to love them. Applying that bit of knowledge to blending a family has it really helped. It really helped in seeing the other parent for what they might be going through, and creating a relationship with them. It took me a long time to actually even be able to talk to Brad's ex-wife, the kid's mom. She basically gave me, like, the stank eye every time, every time I saw her. And for a while, it bothered me, and I was like, why does she hate me so much? And I think once I kind of presented to her that I'm not here to, like, hate you just for being the mom, because that's usually how the dynamics go. I'm not here to hate you just for being, like, his ex. It took years. And I would tell Brad, like, someday I'm going to make her my friend. Like, you just wait. I'm going to make her my friend. And Brad was like, okay, whatever you say. And so I had to consistently work with his ex-wife in being like nice and being inviting and being like even just a small hi, how are you doing, for years until she even gave me the time of day. And now I'm not saying we're besties, but now like the other day I had to send her a text and I was like, hey, can I ask you an insurance question? And she was like, yeah, what's up? Right. So it took years to break through this like wall, to finally just be like on talking terms with her. And that is all part of being in a blended family that people do not realize that you have to work in all of these little areas, that you can't just like
Yeah,
come
commingle.
together and
Yeah,
it's all going to blend beautifully, you know? So, yeah, I that all makes sense, but yeah, I mean, anything worth having is worth working for, so,
absolutely.
yeah.
We've talked about a lot of great things today. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to leave the viewers with?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
it's okay.
Yeah, thanks for having
Yeah,
me. This
thank you
was
so
fun.
much for being on the
I know.
podcast.
Sorry if it got heavy, man.
Now that's the whole point, is that we are here to connect and grow and inspire other people to do the same.
Yeah, for sure. Well, keep going.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
You're just a hugger.
That was great.